All right, we're back. We are MAPD724. That's Advanced iOS Development in the Winter 2019 semester at Centennial, and we're week 8, part 1 of our broadcast. We're talking about location services today. So a little different. We've been doing in the past. We did kind of the game part, game module, which is pretty much the first part of the semester. Now we're going to go into frameworks, and the first one we're going to hit is the MapKit framework, which I want to talk about today. All right, so I've got a little PowerPoint that we can follow for some of it, but for some of it we're just going to do because that's how we do it here. So one of the things we want to talk about is, and again, I'm going to kind of turn some of this stuff off, just turn guides off. That's really annoying. But one of the things that we want to talk about is this idea that MapKit and location services is one of the most common frameworks that we use in iOS and Android. Now, you guys have already done MapKit or equivalent in Android. That was last semester, I'm sure. That's one of the first things you guys did. But as you can see, we're a little bit slower in iOS because of all the complexity surrounding iOS. We're going to see that we're going to use a little bit of Objective-C insertion and this time around because that's what we do when we use MapKit. A lot of the stuff that we do is a little bit borrowing from Objective-C. Hopefully we'll have a chance to do some of that too. So there's a few different ways of doing location services for iOS, 3 ways. Okay, one way is GPS, which is the most common way. The other one is cell ID location. And the third way is Wi-Fi positioning service. Right? So three ways of doing it. GPS is for more modern phones. The average phone, iPhone 6 and up, no problem, you're good. Some older phones, though, like iPhone 4, really drain the crap out of the battery. So they use other ways of doing stuff. Again, we don't really care about those phones anymore because everyone wants to buy everyone wants you to buy the iPhone XR and the brand new phones that are coming out for iOS. But just to let you know, the other services that used to be there, we're going to be focusing on GPS. So again, most accurate is GPS. For Apple, they use something called assisted GPS or AGPS. And what they do is they use Wi-Fi services to boost the signal and give a better accuracy. And some places, what you can do, they'll even give you the floor location. So they'll tell you not just the elevation, but which floor you're on. Let's say if you were in Centennial and Centennial had equivalent of a GPS server, what they could do is they can tell you, well, you know what, you're on the 3rd floor or whatever it is, and they can actually label this stuff for you to find people in the building. And again, WPS or Wi-Fi positioning services, I'll tell you that it's worked for me lots of times when I didn't have access to GPS. And it's because they use, so the accuracy is pretty good. And what they do is they kind of, it pings, the local access point back and forth until it kind of triangulates where your position is in the based on access point, which isn't so bad. Okay, so that's kind of what it's done. But all 3 methods really drain their battery bad. Okay, so, or they can drain the battery really a lot. And the way it's done is because it's an active service. So once you turn on location services, what ends up happening is you continuously drain the battery. If you continue to ping the GPS, kind of service or Wi-Fi, it'll keep draining the battery really terrible. And it doesn't matter, even the most modern phones on the iOS side, and especially on this environment in the Apple ecosystem, unless you take care of how this is done properly, it'll like really drain the phone. That's why they always ask you, do you want to turn location services on for things like Google or anything else that you're doing? Because once you tell them to turn it on, that's it. Now it's going to drain the battery a lot more than if it's not turned on for that particular service. One day that won't be an issue, but for now it is. So there's this thing called the Core Location API that we're going to be starting to use today, and we're going to use something called the Core Location Manager, right? Of course, every time we looked last time when we were doing SpriteKit, it was SK, right? That was the kind of the beginning of the class we're using. Now it's going to be Core Location, so it's CL. It's just the way Apple does stuff in their Swift language. They kind of use the which is kind of a weird thing, To be honest with you, I don't like it. I prefer if it was like a different package or another namespace or whatever they had to kind of hook into, but that's the way they do it. It's not a terrible naming convention. It's just, I prefer if it was something else, but it doesn't matter. So again, you're saying let location manager equal to this new instance of the location manager that you're going to get from core location. That's how it's going to look. And then once you've done that, it's going to call a bunch of delegate methods to make this stuff work. Okay. One thing to note is more accurate you want it, the more power it's going to drain from your device, right? So that means you're going to use more stuff. And the reason why it becomes more accurate is when you keep polling. If I keep polling, so I send a request response, it's a message that I'm sending out. I'm saying, okay, I want, to know my location. Okay, cool. Here's a response. I want to know my location. Okay, here's another response. And if I keep doing that over and over again, I'm using the radio on the actual device, because there's a bunch of radio, whether it's Wi-Fi or whatever, it's using radio signals, right, to do this kind of stuff, and it takes a lot of energy. So this is an example of how you set the delegate. Remember, we talked about anything to do with persistence, data, data handling, whether we're using a cell. If you remember, we did the whole thing with the list, and we had each cell in the list had to have a delegate because we're getting data to fill the list items in with, right? Same thing goes here. We have to use something called a delegate in order for us to, to understand where the data is coming from. In this case, our delegate is going to be the device, the class itself, all right? And again, if you think about this, depending on the kind of accuracy you want, sometimes you don't want terrible good accuracy. All you need to know is I'm in Toronto, right? That's very bad accuracy. And then there's another level of accuracy. You can say that I want fairly good accuracy. Here, you're asking for the best accuracy. Best accuracy means you're going to get more polling happening. And a lot of stuff, what they've done for iOS is they've put a lot of these services in the background. And so this particular thing here, where you say KL location accuracy best, that is an enumeration which turns on, kind of almost like a pointer to get more updates on a regular basis. So again, once you've got this, location accuracy option that's turned on, this value, right? And again, it's defined as a double because there's a lot of different options. This value returns meters. So how many meters is it between A and B, in terms of where I want to find my location, right? So again, what we want to try and do a lot of times is find the location within 10 meters. Why? Because if I know where a person's location is within 10 meters, that's pretty accurate. I mean, relatively. In the future, that's not going to be accurate enough. You're going to see that we want people's location within 1 meter pretty soon, right? So why is that? Why do you guys think that we're going to want location within 1 meter? Why do you care? Think about this now for a second. What's happening in the world today, right? So today we don't care. 10 meters is good enough. Well, why in the future we're going to need more? What do you think, Form? No? You want to bunk or whatever you said before? No. Take off? All right. Being recorded now too. You're on YouTube. So the reason why, I'll tell you guys, is think about this. So imagine if we have augmented reality services in the future, right? And we want to know within a meter, not just 10 meters, or something like that, where I've put an augmented object, a virtual object, if you will, right? So I take an object like some kind of label or something, and I put it over your head, right? If it follows you around, it's okay. But what if I want to label something in augmented reality, especially with this new virtual world that they're thinking of creating, layers of, kind of worlds on top of ours, right? I want to label stuff. I want it to be 100% accurate where I leave labels, things that are guides or whatever, pins, if you will, right? And there's a couple ways to do that. One way is to use GPS. So we could, require in the future, especially with new addressable space, because we're going to have more addressable space because we're going to use 3D locations all around us based on our location. Maybe it's going to be that we need more accuracy. For now, though, 10 meters, pretty good, right? So again, 2 options: location accuracy best or location accuracy best for navigation. It tells core location, that whole framework, to use the most accurate method that's currently available, whatever that is, okay? And you can also use a bunch of other enumerations. One is nearest 10 meters. Accuracy within 100 meters, which maybe is okay. 100 meters, it's not so bad, right? Accuracy within 1 kilometer, accuracy within 3 kilometers, right? So depending on what kind of accuracy you're looking for. Again, the higher level of accuracy, the more drain it's going to have on the battery. Okay, that's the thing to know. Okay. Again, you can change the distance filter. It's all set in meters. That's another option of the delegate, because the delegate itself, when you say location manager.distance filter is equal to a certain object, a certain amount, you can specify more accuracy, which is what we've been trying to do. Okay. You can also set by the distance filter to something called distance filter none, where you don't have a distance filter. This is kind of the default setting. All right. So in other words, if you don't want to say like, I don't know, maybe I wanted only 10 meters, but my accuracy that I was looking for was in 1 kilometer, right? You can change the filter to have more or less accuracy depending on what you want. So one of the things they talk about here is the idea of a speedometer app. So imagine if I had a speedometer app that wanted me to know how fast I was going, right? If I wanted one of those, then I'd want my accuracy to be very, very high, because as I'm moving, I want the speedometer app to give me an update. I want to know where I am physically on the map. So maybe like a running app would be probably okay with the regular accuracy, but what if you're you're doing a biking app or something like that? Biking app can make you move quite quickly, so you probably want more updates more regularly. One of the things we have to do is we need to require permission. Whenever we use location services, one of the things that's going to happen is Apple has made a requirement that there's what's my capabilities for my app? And Android does it slightly differently in the way they get you to ask for permission. And they do the same thing in some ways, but Apple is a little bit more stringent in some of the ways they do things, especially when it comes to location services, right? So there's going to be a thing where it's going to start asking you, do you agree that this is going to be something that we want to do, location services? So once we're ready, when your app is ready, let's say, for example, they're saying, let's say you have an app and you want to start getting location, you can do something called start updating location. It's kind of a built-in thing in the location manager object, right? So first, again, if I go back, I instantiate a location manager object because it's part of core location services. That's what we're going to turn on. And then once we do that, we say, okay, start updating my location, please. Once we do that, once I say start updating my location, I'm starting to drain the battery. I'm starting to actively poll. That's what I'm doing with this start updating location, okay? And what you can do is you can stop updating location. That's the other thing you can do. So you can say, okay, I'm done. I don't need to update my location anymore. Let's stop, right? So that is more actively polling, where you're controlling how often you poll. You can also, if you want to, do something called request location, which is a different option for the location manager. So instead of, hey, start requesting location, keep requesting every frame, if you will, right? You can just say request location, and it'll just turn it off automatically for you. So why would we want to do it one way or the other? One way, start and stop, give you more control, but also drain the battery more. Request location is easier, but you don't have as much control of when it starts and stops, depending on if you reach the location you're looking for or not, right? So example, I want to know if I'm over there, I've reached there, request location, turns everything off for you. But what if I want to keep polling? What if I want to keep polling for extra little time? There's no way of doing that with the previous option, right? You'd have to code it yourself. Okay, so that's really, in a nutshell, on a high level, how it works. But sometimes what happens is we also will encounter an error, and there's a couple errors that we can encounter. We're going to talk about one of the errors is going to be something like, "Hey, I don't have permission," which we're going to talk about soon. And the other option that the other error we're going to get is it's an error in location. Okay, so we're going to know that too. So again, when we look at the get location updates method, that's part of the delegate method. that we attach to the location manager, it's going to say something like, hey, did I update my locations? And there's two options for this. The first parameter, it looks at the location manager itself, whatever the location manager is the object that you've created, right? And the second parameter really gives you an array of location objects, and this gives you even previous locations. So what it does is it looks at, so what if I had, I'm a moving target, I want to know where I am right now, and I've moved. So it's going to keep an array of previous locations as long as you keep polling the location manager, right? So it's kind of interesting that it keeps track of that kind of stuff. And of course, the last position or the current position is in the last item in the array. So that's pretty cool. So it appends things to the array, keeps appending, and the very last locations in the last item. So it kind of appends it at the bottom. It'd be nice if it appended at the top somehow, if it inserted at the top every single time. So location 0 would be the place where we're at, but it doesn't do that. So there's some tricky code sometimes in order for us to find where we are. One of the things that we're going to get is this location class. And the location class can provide all kinds of wonderful information. For example, it provides coordinate information, right? Horizontal accuracy, altitude, so like actual height of where you're at, right? Vertical accuracy, so where you are vertically and horizontally, as well as what floor, like I talked about earlier. If you're in a position where in Wi-Fi network or whatever that kind of broadcasts what floor you're on, it can actually tell you, really accurate. As well as timestamp information and a description of the location itself, if it's available, right? So some really good stuff. And here's an example if I just want to get longitude and latitude. A lot of times it's longitude and latitude that we want, right? Because longitude and latitude, it equates to like a map in Google Maps is a good example, right? And we're not going to use Google Maps. We're going to use the map function that's built into iOS, right? iOS map equivalent, right? We're going to use location services to get us closer to where we're at. So this is the way you do it. You'd say something like, okay, I have the location object. I want to look at the coordinate for latitude. So coordinate is the actual property. Latitude and longitude are two sub-properties of the coordinate object itself. So it's like the location is the big object. Coordinate is another small object that's inside the location object, location class. And inside the coordinate, there's two other properties, longitude and latitude. Okay, and really what we want to do with horizontal accuracy, it kind of talks about a radius in meters with the coordinate itself as its center. So, horizontal accuracy. And of course, the larger the value, the less certain core location is of the location, which is kind of interesting, right? But the smaller the radius gives you a high confidence that you're within that space. And sometimes why is it the way it is? Because think about it, you're getting information from satellites, right? So depending on where you're at, let's say for example you're inside a mall, right? So how does this work? So GPS, question for you guys is, do you actually connect with a satellite? What do you think? Curious. Do you connect with a satellite? Global Positioning System is what GPS stands for. So do you connect with the satellite? Do you personally connect with a satellite with your phone? Is that how it works? What do you think? No, you don't. You go through the cell network. So the cell network has a series of towers, and then the towers connect with the satellite, right? So it's going to give you accuracy based on the difference between you and the different towers. So it says, okay, I've got a tower over here, and I got a tower over there, and there's another tower over here, triangulate 3 towers, right? And it says we're somewhere in this triangle, right? So that's how it works. So depending on how close you are to 3 towers, where you are, you can say, well, okay, so let's say Forum, she's closer to tower A, right? So, okay, fine, so now we're over here in this cell, right? And then from there, okay, is there a Wi-Fi network around? This is the augmented, kind of GPS that Apple uses. Yes, okay, cool. We can give further accuracy to the location that way. That's what it does, right? And again, there's going to give you, sometimes it'll give you, if you actually look for, you guys have Find My Friends app. Do you ever see that? There's a Find My Friends app on the, have an iPhone. So on iPhone, they have a Find My Friends app, and I'll show you that later on. What it allows you to do is find your friends, but it gives you kind of a circle, almost like a horizontal accuracy of a circle, a radius, around the location. And sometimes it's really big. It's like really massive. And you're like, wait, why is it so big? Because we have the location of a tower, a cell tower or two, but we don't have the third one. And we kind of know that the person's somewhere in this circle, but we don't know exactly where. That's going to improve a lot. Over the next little while, you can see the horizontal accuracy is going to get much, much better. All right, so here's an example of a graphic, and again, they kind of use this example to show you what it looks like. So this is what it would look like on the map. You see this little circle, and you see the person in the middle somewhere. So somewhere in this circle is where the person is, and that's how it kind of gives you this horizontal accuracy kind of thing. Okay. And again, it's based on a bunch of different things, a bunch of different factors to give you that. All right, you can also find the altitude of an object. Now, most people really don't care about this, and stuff. I mean, really don't care. How many meters above sea level are you? Do you really care? Most people don't. However, it's very good for other things. I want to know how far I am, as an example. Maybe there's other reasons why you want to know your altitude or whatever, because you know what? We look at things in 2 dimensions, people, right? That's what we do. We sit there and go, okay, so he should be here. Wait a minute. I don't see him. Where is this person? Oh, they're there, right? They're way up there. They're in the same location, but they're up above. We don't get that information, right? I don't know exactly how high if I'm looking at Find My Friends app, I don't sit there and go like, wait, my wife is, 125 meters above sea level, and I'm only on 120 meters. Wait, I should look up, right? We don't do that, right? I mean, but the capability in the phone is there. The capability is there to tell you the accuracy. Even in your car, if you have a car with GPS, I do, it tells you the accuracy, tells you exactly where you are from an altitude perspective. How many meters above sea level are you? Great information, but for most people, absolutely useless for now. We don't really use it, okay? In fact, a lot of the sensors we have on our phone, most people don't even use half of them, especially on an Android phone. Some of the Android phones that you'll see have barometer and all this other stuff, and most people don't even use that kind of stuff. So it's not even included in the app, right? But again, we're going back to Apple stuff and what they give us, right? So sometimes what happens is we have this idea of vertical accuracy. So one of the things we had before, we talked about the circle, we had horizontal accuracy, so a radius around you. Well, vertical accuracy is a radius up, right, around you, up in the up direction. So again, you have some kind of accuracy because maybe you want to find somebody, you're pathfinding, let's say, or doing orienteering or something else, where you're traveling, you're trying to detect your friends, find your friends, but they're, I don't know, on another level somewhere up, and it's going to give you an accuracy based on this vertical circle that you're going to see. Again, most of the times, there's no apps that I've seen that give you that kind of thing, right? Or very few, let's put it that way, okay? But the capability in the phone is there, especially on the new phones, okay? Floor is only when we're given a floor, and timestamp, it tells us when's the last time we got information from the person. So sometimes if you look at the app, if I'm going to show you this app in a bit, it tells you something like Find My Friends app, it says 30 seconds ago, 1 minute ago, 2 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And you can keep on updating the app. If you actually press the update function, it'll update the app over and over again until you can see, oh, just now. Here's where they were just now. They're downtown, or they're over here. You can keep doing that. Again, be careful, because every time you press that button, you're draining your battery, right? But that's what the timestamp allows us to do. How long ago did they get a poll back, information back from location services? You can also do distance between 2 points. So again, a good example of this is this Find My Friends app. Okay, so for example, let's say Forum and I, she's my friend, she shares her location with me, I share my location with her, and I want to find how far away we are. So it'll actually calculate the distance between my location and her location, roughly, based on horizontal accuracy. So it'll say, well, Forum is, 30 kilometers away. Okay, approximately. And then you'll see it jumps. It goes 25 kilometers away. Now it goes back to 28 kilometers away. And then it'll go back to 30 kilometers away. And if it's that inaccurate, it's because forum's inside, or I'm inside, or I'm traveling through a cell station or something. But once you're inside an area where there's Wi-Fi and it's using this service, it's actually pretty accurate. It'll tell you within, like I said, within 10 meters of where the person is, right? So instead of a kilometer, okay, most people say, well, they're about this much distance away. But the really crazy thing about this app, this Find My Friends app that's actually out there, it'll actually show you thousands of kilometers. So if, let's say, for example, Forum travels back to India, right, to see her, her friends and family and everything else, right? Wow. You like that, right? Then what's going to happen is when she goes back to India, I'm going to see, like, I don't know, how many kilometers? 5,000 kilometers?
More than that. More
than that to India, right? So it's going to be a lot of kilometers. It'll show me the exact number approximately based on horizontal accuracy of where I am and where Forum is, which is kind of really cool. Useless for most applications, but really cool in terms of, like, hey, where am I in the world? And I use it sometimes when, friends is traveling and I want to know if they're back or whatever, I can check it. But some people don't like that because it's a little bit intrusive. It's like you're sharing your location with somebody else. And some people don't like that. Wait, where's Tom? Oh, he's supposed to be home right now, but he's not. Where is he? Some people don't like that stuff. But more and more people, for whatever reason, are not crazy about that. Who cares? If they want to know my location, sure, I'll share it with my friends. You can also turn your location sharing services on or off temporarily. Like, for example, if you have something you want to do that's private, you want to buy your wife a diamond ring, you don't want her to know that you're shopping, you can do that, right? Again, most people don't. They just leave it on, right? If they're going to share, they keep sharing. It comes down to a use case where there's a little bit of laziness involved. One thing I have to say, though, is that there are advocates of privacy that really don't like this feature, and I know that there's been some kind of conversation around turning this feature off for iOS devices and stuff. I don't want to share my location. Why should that be even a feature? But some people find it really, really cool, especially when it comes to family. So there's two sides of the argument. I want to know where my kids are. The other side of the argument is, but I don't want anyone else to know where I am, right? So you have an option to share your location with your friends. So this idea, distance from location, is part of the method that this Find My Friends app uses to find the distance between me and somebody else. And again, one thing to note is that, a bunch of years ago, let's say 10 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. You couldn't find the location between you and somebody else, so you'd have to manually calculate it. Other reasons why this is really cool is I have a driver, he works for me, and I make it mandatory. I give him a company phone, and I want to find out location services. Where is my stuff? Like, where's my company allocated equipment? My truck, where is it? Well, instead of buying a GPS for the truck, you could give your driver a phone, and then you'll know where your driver is approximately. Also very bad sometimes, because if the driver wants to go and grab McDonald's, then you're going to know that he's in McDonald's and he's not delivering what he's supposed to do, right? So a little bit intrusive. It makes people feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, but it can be very useful. And this is how you do it. You say, so here's my distance. You create a distance variable, and you say from location, and then you use the distance from location method to whatever location you want, and it calculates the distance between the 2 points. So kind of very, very simple to do. Okay, one thing it does is it ignores the altitude property. When you do that kind of distance calculation, it doesn't care about altitude. It just knows the distance in a straight line from where you are to where they are. Why is that? Because that would be way too complex to calculate, because now you're calculating an altitude rise, which is kind of weird. So it doesn't tell you that, which makes it less accurate when it comes to things like if you're in a very hilly, mountainous area and you're like, oh, they're only 5 kilometers away. Yeah, as the crow flies this way. They're not 5 kilometers. What if they were up, 100 meters, 200 meters, or 500 meters? That would change things, right? So, and especially if they're up, some kilometers. And we talked about this idea of error handling. Again, there's two different kinds of errors. One is location unknown. I can't find the person, right? Or I can't find you. You don't know. I can't connect with the satellite. That's a possible error that you might get. The other one is location denied, right? And when you get a denied error, it's because for whatever reason, you've turned off location services. So you're going to get, well, I can't tell you where you are because you've told me not to tell you, right? The other one is, I can't tell you where you are because I'm failing because I don't have access to that information. I don't know where I don't know where you are. Maybe your signal is blocked. Maybe you're underground. Maybe, you know, maybe, you know. And especially when it comes to finding the distance between you and somebody else. So if you have that Find My Friends app again, and I turn it on and I want to find Forum, but she turned her location services off, I can't find her. So I'm going to get a location unknown. You know, and actually that's what happens. It says unknown location. I'm not able to determine the location of the person. So if you're used to using that service, it can be quite frustrating. You sit there and go, where is she? Where's my daughter? I don't know, right? So it's kind of, that's what it kind of returns. So what we want to do is we want to make this little application that looks like this today, okay? So it's going to be basically where the bottom part of our application has latitude, longitude, horizontal accuracy, altitude, everything that we want to get from our little points. And then in the background over here where there's a gray area, I want to show the map. That's what we're going to do. That's what the application we're going to be building, okay? So what do we do? How do we build this? Let's start off. I'm going to start off with Xcode. So I'm going to just bring up Xcode. Again, I'm just using my search button. I can't tell you, when I first started using Mac and they introduced the search feature, I was like, wow, this is way better than Windows. Right now, Windows has it, of course. You can just look at the bottom left and, you know, kind of type what you want, and it's kind of the same thing. I still feel that the Mac version of the search feature is just way easier. I want to create a new Xcode project, and I'm going to use a single view application. By the way, the reason why I had augmented reality up is because I was looking at that, and like I said earlier to you guys, last part of semester, first half, my phone will not support augmented reality services. In fact, I don't even think any of the phones we have here will do it. You need, if I'm not wrong, an iPhone 8 or greater in order for you to do things properly. Or maybe even iPhone 7, I have to check. But my little iPhone 6, meh, doesn't work. So that's weird. That's kind of a weird thing. We need to get more modern phones to do augmented reality. I'm still going to try and do that by the end of semester. But for now, let's look at single view application, which is where we're going to start like we do every single time. So I'm going to click next. My team, you know what, we've been having this trouble with this team because our friend Ralph is away right now, so I'm just going to do me. And again, from a product name perspective, what they ask us to do is put this app called Where Am I? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say MAPD724-W2019. I'm going to put this up online for you guys so you can see it. And then it's going to be lesson 8, which is where we're at right now. Organizational name is Centennial. This is where we're at. CA Centennial College, reverse domain name. We're using Swift language. We're not going to use core data or unit tests right now. We're going to click next. And we're going to add this into our Xcode projects. There we are. Or wherever you like to put it, and associate a Git repository for it. Now, in the display name, you can call this thing whatever you want, right? So here's where I can put in Where Am I? If I want to put Where Am I? I'm going to put it right in here in the display name, right? So that's what the app is going to see when I load this thing up. But the actual app itself, the project, is going to be called MAPD724, blah, blah, and blah. All right, so that's one. So one thing is, whenever we look at our manifest, this modifies what? Our info.plist. Our info.plist, or property list, is an actual file that's right here. Modifies this file when I come up here in our manifest. When I modify it, anything that I put in here is basically modifying this thing. So far, we've been looking at portrait, landscape left, and landscape right today. Let's just turn these off. We're not going to look at landscape left and landscape right. All we care about is portrait mode, because this is not a exercise of trying to make everything fit 100% on our every single phone. Just one phone, we want to use location services, right? Other things we need to do here is what? Well, we need to turn on some capabilities. And if you notice on the capability sides, we have this thing called maps, right? If I open this up, you can see that it says with MapKit, you can create routing apps that users can access from maps. Your apps can provide specific directions beyond what the Maps app supports. So if I wanted to use this, I could turn this on the MapKit. And what MapKit does, it connects with the Maps app, which is part of your It's built into your iOS framework, your environment, and your iOS device, actually. So we're going to turn that on later on. For now, though, we're going to leave it off, right? But if you notice all these tabs, which we haven't really touched, there's a bunch of rules, everything from compilation when it comes to our build settings. This is something that I wanted to talk to you guys about this semester because of what you can do. It tells you how you can build stuff, and sometimes we can fix problems in here. Build phases in terms of compiling and linking. We do all that kind of stuff in the background, and there's nothing for you to do. It does it all for you. And any kind of build rules, we can add custom build rules in terms of adding different other capabilities. Notice that it says, I want to copy stuff from SceneKit or something else. You can do that with different build rules. For now, we're not going to talk about those things going back to general. We're going to keep it the way it is. All right? Just wanted to show you that. We're going to save the app. Okay, so we're going to come back here and save. Once we've done that, we're going to go back to this. And notice what it says in our viewcontroller.swift. We want a couple of new options. One of them is this core location, which we've been talking about all this time with Location Manager. And the other one we want to add in here is MapKit. Okay, so those two things. So if I go back to my viewcontroller.swift and I want to add in core location, right? So that's one thing I want to add in. And I also want to add in MapKit. So those two things. First two things I want to add in here. And then once I've got that in there, notice it says class view controller. So I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see this. So class view controller, UI view controller, and then also core location manager delegate. Remember we talked about that because it gets data, it needs to have a delegate, and we have to conform to this new protocol, which means there's other things we can do with it, or we need to do when we bring this in. So again, what I want to do here is in the class, so CL, and if you notice the location manager delegate is what we want. So if I keep typing location manager delegate, it's this one, right? And that's the delegate for that we want to use, including in this class. Okay, notice there's no error yet. And even if we build, there's not going to be an error. So again, one thing to note is we need to use core location. It's not included in Foundation or UI kit, so we need to include it. We need to import. We need to bring it in because it doesn't have it. That's what it says. All right, so some stuff we need to do, and I'm just going to zoom in here because I'm going to type some of this stuff out as I go. So one thing we need to do is notice there's a private let location manager equals to core location manager, and this instantiates an object of type location manager. So let's do that first. So again, going up here, just before the view.did.load function, we're going to have a private member called location manager, which is going to be a new. We don't use the new keyword. Remember, we're going to say CL location manager, which is what we want, right? So that's the first thing we want to do, right? So this thing right here, core location manager. If we make an instance of this as an example, and of course we need to use the keyword let. Okay, so there's that location manager. First thing we want to do. Next one is we want to have this idea of keeping track of our previous points. We're going to add that in. And again, it's of type core location. This is where I think it's a little bit, we're just going to call it CL for now. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll just ignore the CL in front and just call it location manager or location distance. So we're good to go, right? Again, we want to keep track of our previous point. So we're going to say private var previous point is of type location, which is this one, right? Notice that we have to put it in the question mark because it could be something that's not initialized initially, right? So we have this optional that we're going to use right here, right? And we're going to wrap it later on. Next, if you notice that we're going to say private total movement distance is this idea of location distance. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing. Member name, blah, 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 blah. What did we do wrong? Colon. What did we do? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We said is equal to, and what we want to say is we want to declare explicitly declare the type. We're saying previous point is of type core location location. And again, what we want to do here is we want private, we want to make another variable that is of total movement distance. So total movement distance, right? And this is of type, again, location distance. So CL location distance, we're passing 0. Okay. Again, if you wanted to know, did you mean use equal sign? I believe that is the old way to do it. And I'm not sure that we can do this here. Let's see if this is a problem. We could replace colon with, oh, we do have to do that. Haha, I was wrong. See, form, you messed me up. It's this. Now, what we're doing is we're instantiating a new object of type location distance. Location distance, and we instantiate a new object of that type. And we store it, we initialize it, and we store it in total movement distance. You're going to see how we're going to use this in a sec. Okay, then we have a bunch of new IB outlets. IB outlets. And that's interesting. Why would we need IB outlets? Well, we're going to have a latitude label, a longitude label, horizontal accuracy, a bunch of labels here that we're going to kind of put in. And so we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 labels and something called a map view, which is of type MK map view. So let's do all those. But I'm not going to do this. I'm going to let the code write it for me. I don't want to do this by hand. That doesn't make any sense. I would never program it like this or even do my interface. What I would do instead is actually drag and drop the labels that I want. Okay, so remember we have our main storyboard. In our main storyboard, on the bottom, we're going to have some labels. And what we're going to do also is when we have our labels, we're going to put it inside of a panel that we're going to put in here in a second. But for now, notice that I just want to drag and drop these labels. Let's just do this. So we're going to go into here, and we're going to say label. And here's our label. I'm just going to drag and drop one of the labels in here right now. And remember that what we had, and again, I can kind of zoom in here a little bit so we can see the bottom of our storyboard. I'm just going to close this up for now. One thing I don't care about in this app is I really don't care about is it going to fit properly or whatever. I just want to make this work. In the beginning, I also recommend that anyway. So I want latitude and longitude label. Let's do that. So let's just call this latitude, right? And then we'll option drag to create longitude. These are all things we've done before. Longitude. There we go. Latitude, longitude. And we also want horizontal accuracy and an altitude label. So we'll say drag and drop. Horizontal accuracy. We're going to align these in a second. Okay. Move these over here. And again, option drag until we get this other thing called altitude. So these are just like the labels that we can see in our app, right? The ones we can. Then we're going to have other labels we're going to fill in. We'll get the data. We're going to fill those in a second. Okay, so first we're just going to drag these and make those up, and then we'll do the rest. And then vertical accuracy is the other one. Let's just take this where we kind of have half of it, and we're going to make this into vertical accuracy instead of horizontal. Let's just do that. There we go, vertical accuracy. And then I also want the distance traveled label and the map view. So let's try the distance traveled. We'll do the label first. So again, option drag. So below distance traveled. Distance traveled. All right, so that's pretty cool. Distance traveled 1L. I want to use the Canadian spelling with it, just 2L. But let's just put 1L just to keep it the same. And one thing that we're going to do in this one is I want to kind of align these labels to the left and have some kind of space. So again, I'm just going to grab all this stuff. It's going to take the bottom portion of my screen here. I'm going to take this part over here and kind of start stacking in the bottom. I want a little bit of distance on the bottom because I want to give a space on the bottom and on the left. Again, we don't want more than that. So I want to kind of snap to these points. And this is for the actual label itself, but the text inside the label, I don't want the text to be like this. I want it to be like right justified. And again, you can do that by bringing up your inspector. So we can see the inspector here. And if I click on any one of these labels here, from a control perspective, and if I hover over the attributes inspector, we can see that we have lots of options here, to change the orientation. Right now, if I go kind of click this, nothing. But if I go do one of these, right? And again, the reason why this isn't changing is if I kind of increase the size of the label, you can see that I want all the labels to be the same sizes. So they kind of hug the right side. Let's just do the same thing. The longest label, that's why I kind of did this after. There we go. Same thing with this one. Now they're all the same size, so now I can kind of click on the ones that need to be adjusted, which is these ones, and we can just click, this object right here, so they're all hugging the right side. Hey, this is a little bit tight inside the object. And if you want to give yourself a little bit more space, you can do that. So I can kind of maybe make it a little bit more, give us a little bit more breathing room, if you will. And I'll fix that in a second, just to give us a little more. And again, I'm just doing this by eye, but you can certainly measure it if you wanted to do that as well. There we go. So we got all those now. We got a little bit of space on the side. So kind of that's part of our label. And the other part of our labels, we want other labels here, all these ones. And I want to copy all these ones. I don't want to do it again. I want to copy all these ones and put them over there because they're positioned properly. One of the things to note also, there's a little bit of space between each of these things. I didn't measure it. I kind of dragged it by eye. So, what you may want to do is take a look at your app from a very high level and see, hey, am I going to have enough space? Like, I want to see the idea is I want to see my map up here, and I want to see my labels down here. Okay, that's what I want to do. So again, it looks like it's going to be okay. I want to grab all these now. And again, we're not quite in the middle. I'm going to probably leave a little bit of space between my label and the other label over here. So this is pretty okay. So again, I'm going to kind of copy all these ones, and then I'm going to option drag these ones across, so that they're kind of hugging the right side like this, right? And so I've got like these labels now. I've kind of got the bottom covered, but I don't need this text at all. Like none of this text is required. And if you notice, one of the things that when I click on, because I've got all these kind of highlighted, I had them all highlighted. So if I highlight more than one, let me show you this. There's a bunch of them highlighted. You can see that some things disappear, but the common stuff, all this stuff that's the same, right, is pretty cool. Notice if I type a value in here, like some label, press enter, every one of them changes to whatever I want, because I can do that. I can modify them all at once, right? If I want to, I can also wipe them all out, which is what I want to do. I don't want any of them to have any value whatsoever. One also thing that I want to do, so I'll do that change, is once I have that view, all these labels kind of brought up, the question for you is, do you want your numbers justified to the right or to the left? I mean, we could look at the thing, to see, but if you justify it to the right like this, like we've done over here, then the numbers are going to appear on the right-hand side, which is kind of weird. Maybe you want to justify it on the left in this case. So we're going to kind of go back to this side. So the numbers are going to appear right in the middle. Right, so there's going to be like more of a, thing between the two numbers in the middle here. Okay, now we can get rid of these labels because we don't care about them. We don't care about the actual text anymore. If we can get rid of that, let's get rid of that and save the outline. Now we have all this stuff, and now that I have this is a perfect time to drag and drop our IB outlets. I don't want to do this all by hand. Xcode will do it for me. How would I type it all out for? If Xcode can do it for me. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to get rid of this. And this, of course, is our related view controller, just like we've seen last semester. And what I want to do is just underneath here, excuse me, underneath here, what I want to do, and again, I don't have a lot of space because of the way I've allocated stuff here, but what I want to do, let's see if I can do this, is I want to drag and drop each of these things off, and then because these are labeled here like this, it's going to give me a way of remembering what each of these things does or what they are. So again, I can add some comments. So this is, you know, location manager related objects. That's what they are. And these ones down here are going to be, you know, ID or label outlets. That's what they're going to be. Right? Here's my label outlets. Let's start doing this. So again, I'm going to kind of grab over here, and I want to kind of control drag from here to there, where I'm going to create my first outlet. You can see that it's of type UI label. That's the type. And I'm going to name this Latitude label. Yay! See? Done for me. Don't have to worry. Better, right? Same. Next. And we're just going to type this one. This is going to be the Longitude label. Longitude label. Yay. Excellent. Next one. Control drag. Right? Horizontal accuracy label. So horizontal accuracy label. Excellent. Next one. Altitude label. Control drag. And again, I'm using uppercase, upper camel case. You may decide to just camel case, up to you. Altitude label. Excellent. Next. Vertical accuracy, control drag. Right? So now we'll have vertical accuracy label. Excellent. Control drag. And distance traveled label. Distance traveled label. Done. All those labels are done. We've got them all pounded out. And guess what? I don't have to make finger typing errors, which is a bad thing. It happened to me, right? And it has all the explicitly unwrapped parts of the label, which I don't have to do by myself, right? Way better. Okay, cool. We've got a connection between our labels, you know, from our app into in here. This is pretty good. Okay, cool. Now we want some other stuff. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. So we've done all this. The only thing we haven't done is this part, because this map view we're going to do later on. Okay, and there's actually a map view object we're going to bring in, which is cool. It means I don't have to sit and draw the graphics. I don't have to do any of that stuff. It's handled in the background by iOS, which is cool for me. Hey, anything that's handled for me automatically is a lot of times better than me having to do it by myself. Okay, so we've got all this. That's pretty cool. It tells us what to do. It says first expand the view controller hierarchy in the document outline and select the view item, and in the attributes inspector, change its background color to light gray. Okay, so what we didn't do is, and I'm just going to kind of kill this part right here. What I want to do is I want to bring back this stuff. Right. So one of the things we killed our outliner. That's what this thing is. And what it's asking us to do that we didn't do is we click on the view property itself. And what I want to do is I want to change the background to light gray. So if I go here to where it says background, I want to choose, you know, kind of a light gray color. There we are. And it changes this automatically to light gray. Really exciting. Okay. Yay. Okay. And I think they want the light gray color so that way you can overlay the map. That's what they want to do next. We dragged all our a UI view from the object library and drop it onto the existing view, and then position the sizes so it covers the bottom part of the main view. Remember what UI view is that's the panel that I was talking about before, right? We can really do this in a second. So, okay, here's my UI view. Let's take this, get that UI view from our objects. Again, I want to go to UI view. UI view. And it looks like it says our view. This is what this is right here. Here's our view, you know, kind of thing. Here's my view that I have. It's kind of a UI view. And notice that I can drag it so that it fills the panel. I want this stuff in there. Curious, can I drag that in there? What do you think? Can I copy paste that in there? What do you think that can happen? So let's try with this. So if I kind of drag that into there, does it work? Of course it does. It's nice. But it's a little bit off center. So we're going to undo that change. One thing we want to do is I want to, with my views, I want to position it so it's going to fill this part here. I mean, I can copy and paste or move everything that I want. So again, what I want to do is kind of select all this stuff, deselect this. And what I want to do is I want to select all this stuff. You can also just select it all. If I can do it properly, there we go. Yay. And what I want to do now is move this in here with some kind of accuracy. So kind of, put it in there so that it's centered. What you can also do is you can just adjust it. Not like that, that's for sure. And we can kind of drag this whole thing on the bottom now so that it has a little bit of kind of move to the bottom. Now it looks almost exactly the same. We haven't really done anything different. The only thing is that this thing is pure white. And we don't want that. We want this to have some kind of transparency so we can see the map in the background, right? That's the idea. And we're going to put the map below this thing. This is just a UI view. Think about it as a top-level container where it contains all this stuff. And by the way, if you don't like the space up here, notice that it takes that away. You can always move these things up and take from the bottom because the bottom shrinks, but the top doesn't, right? So again, I just want to make it so that the container is a little bit more contained. You can take those things, move them up a little bit. You can use the guides to kind of guide you and to have to be somewhat accurate. And then we can take this actual object itself and we can drag it up so that it kind of gives us a little bit of spacing. That's not bad, something like that. And then we can take the whole thing and move it down. And then because the other items, I want you to think about this UI view container, the view container, as the parent to all these other objects from in the hierarchy. And you can kind of layer things together like this. Okay, save. It's okay. I like it too. Yeah, this is different than a stack view. This is like, kind of one thing, kind of layered onto the other. You can do a lot of things. Stack view is great. Makes it easier for things like if I reorient everything, right? Yeah, it's much better, much easier. For now, though, we're not doing that. We're not doing any kind of thing. This is just another way of doing stuff so we can get data, which is where I want to go. So latitude, longitude. And if I look at this, if I was to run this app right now, it's not going to have a problem because I'm running it in the iPhone XR. And I recommend, by the way, guys, since we're in the era of the iPhone XR or something like that, you run it in an 8 or an iPhone XR nowadays. Running it in a 6 or iPhone 7 or even an iPhone 8, even think about it, not that accurate because most of the times you're going to see some kind of cutout now. This is the new thing, right? Before, I have to say that this was not cool. And here's something else. So why are we seeing this? And how come this is not hugging? Because my view is view as iPhone 8 on the bottom, see? So whereas if I wanted to view it as an iPhone XR, then you can see with higher accuracy what this is going to look like. And this is something that we can adjust our view now in a second. Again, you can see that that is pretty much what we're getting over here with a bunch more space down here. And if you look at it, depending on what you're looking at, so this is an XR. There's different other device sizes that we can get here, right? There's the XS Max, there's the XR, right? Here's the XS, and this is the iPhone 8 Plus. We want to kind of go with this, XR. There we go. And now we're going to get a higher, more accurate representation of what it's going to look like. All right, cool. So this is bad. So we don't want this to happen. So again, we're just going to take this view and we're just going to stretch it so it fills the whole space. And now we have a bit of label issues. And also, I want to put this towards the bottom because that's what we want to do. So again, click away and click back. I want to move this whole thing so it's kind of near the bottom, but not too much to the bottom, maybe just about right there. And maybe what I want to do now is adjust my labels so that they are on the same line, but just to the right. So it's one of those. It's a bit of an adjustment because I want to make it so that I didn't realize, my fault. Didn't realize that I was looking at the iPhone 8. I'd rather do this. Also notice that I probably want to bring this a little bit closer, something like that. Again, it doesn't have to be totally, bigger than this. And I don't even need to make them accurate. I just want the data to be on the right-hand side. You can make your app look a little different than mine. Excellent. So we've got this thing going on. We've got our panel. We've got the gray space. We know it's going to work nicely for the iPhone XR. Now let's rerun it and see if we have basic our user interface that looks similar to what we want. Yay. Very nice. Okay, cool. And it's going to be, all of our data is going to appear down here with fair accuracy. Cool. Next, if you notice back to the PowerPoint, it says that we've dragged to drop a UI view. Make sure that the bottom left and right sides of the view exactly match those of the gray view. We did that, right? And one thing it says that we dragged all these labels, which we kind of did. We option dragged to copy. We cleared the text. We did all that stuff, right? And we're going to write some code in a second. But one thing I want to do here is I know that what we're going to try and do is see the label or the map underneath. And what I want to do is give a little bit of transparency below this. So I'm going to kind of clear this part for a second and add my inspector, go back to here. And so again, what I want to do is I want to look and see if there's a way to get transparency. So if you notice my alpha value over here is 1. I don't want too much transparency because then I won't be able to see my data. So I'm thinking something like a 70% or 80% transparency, and it's normalized transparency. So it goes from 0 to 1, where 1 is 100%. We can lower this value, so something like 0.8, and that's not bad. Okay, so it's not going to totally ruin things. Why am I putting this in? Because I know I'm going to have a map that I'm going to include in the back, and I want to be able to see through this panel to the back of the map, and so I can see the map in the back of my my object there. Okay, cool. And again, one more test. I want to test it one more time to make sure that it looks good, right? So we probably won't notice much of a difference, but you can see that it's a little grayer now than it was before because we've added transparency. Okay, so now the gray, the light gray, is coming through the white area. Okay, not for long because the white gray is the light gray is going to disappear because we're going to put a map view in there. But for now, this is what we see. Great. Are you with me? Trying to go slow. You're laughing at me. Yeah, you know, Tom's never going slow. But I'm recording it too, so it's okay if you ever want to do this app. By the way, the stuff I'm going to be showing you over the next couple of weeks, you're going to choose pieces of the sensors and the frameworks that I'm going to show to make the next application. The next assignment that you're going to do is have some kind of sensors that you're going to choose. You're going to choose one of these sensors and you're going to make your own app based on the sensor. And I'm going to give you a lot of leeway. All right, so any kind of app you think of that makes sense with these things. Okay. Cool. Okay, cool. I like this. We're getting some good accuracy. I don't need this part over here. I do need this part for a second, though, because we're going to get back to programming now, and I want to look at the view controller.swift. So we've got these things. That's nice. And we're looking at the view did load. Let's just get rid of this. We don't need that stuff. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and I don't care about this right now. So I'm going to clean that up a bit. And even some of this, anything else that I don't need, I'm kind of just going to clear away to give us a little bit more space, more real estate. And we're going to add some other stuff in there later on. Cool. Okay, good. Notice that the reason why we did this is because we have all these connections to the UI labels now, and we can access them when we start coding. All right, going back to the PowerPoint. Any questions so far, by the way, what I'm doing? All I'm doing is setting up the simple UI where all my data is going to spit out from MapKit and core location. Okay, that's what's happening here. All right, so here's some code. So we got this part, no problem. But now we're going to start looking at configuring the location manager. And the first thing, again, we're going to do this part, which is delegate is going to be self, which means that this itself is going to be the delegate. And when we do this, we're going to start seeing some effects. So we're going to say, again, and notice how it's location manager.delegate. We could do self dot. Remember, that's also a thing we could do in part of our code. We could say self.location manager.delegate is equal to self. That's totally a thing. We can totally do that, right? Remember self, it's implied. It's like this in other languages. Again, just a bit of a review. But we could do this if you want. Sometimes I like to do this to start and then just delete them, only because it's easier to find some of this stuff much quicker than if you just type them in. But in this case, we don't really need it, so I'm just going to take it out. So location manager, which means this location manager, dot delegate is equal to self. And then the next part we're going to put in is the desired accuracy. And notice we're going to use the best accuracy. And then the location manager dot request when in use authorization. We need to put this in place so I can say, hey, are you sure you want to use location services? That's what it's going to ask us to do, right? So again, I'm going to say location manager, right? Dot accuracy So we want to say like location accuracy. So if I type in accuracy, desired accuracy is what you're going to get. And then you can say what kind of accuracy you want. And if I press Control and space, it gives you some options. One of them is that, you know, different things like altitude label and some other stuff, right? And sometimes you get some really cool things in here to make some good suggestions. But what we want is really the, it says KCL, all right? We're going to talk about this. So KCL, and then location accuracy best. And I want to talk about why it says K. What do you think it says KCL as opposed to just CL? It's in kilometers. Yeah. But if you notice, it says location accuracy best, location accuracy kilometer, within kilometers, location accuracy, location coordinate, 2D invalid, and there's a bunch of other ones. There's also location accuracy 100 meters. I mean, you might think that's actually better, but remember, we want within 10 meters. That's what we want of ourselves, right? So we want to kind of put this location accuracy best. Okay, so that's the thing that we want to put in. It's going to drain the battery a little bit more. Next part is request when in use authorization. So we're going to do that. So location manager, request when in use authorization. We're going to kind of call that. Cool. And then if we run the app, we're going to get this, which is going to say, hey, allow, right? Okay, makes sense? Let's go back. And if we press play, we did it right. We should get it, but we didn't. Why? Does anyone know why? Info plist. The info plist, where it says required device capabilities, right? And if you notice here, you have to put in what the device capability is, right? So that's where it asks. If you don't ask for authorization, then what's going to happen is you're going to get this thing where it says, remember that error? Denied? You're going to get that. If you don't ask for authorization, it's not going to ask for it. And doesn't ask for it, you don't get it. And if you don't get it and it doesn't have it when you try and use location services, fails to work every single time. It'll give you an error, right? So again, if I go back up to here, and if I was to look at capabilities, right? Now, one thing to note is we can say we want to turn maps on and off. That doesn't really take care of what we want to do, right? So even if I turn this on, if I say, well, I want this capability. If I look at the info plist now, right? It doesn't really add it in here in this version here, right? What I want to do is I want to add in, it says, look what it says, info plist must contain an NS location when in use, usage description key with a string value explaining to the user how the app uses this. So this right here, which is kind of cool, right? So this app has attempted to access private sensitive data without usage description. The app's info plist, which is this, must include this with a string value explaining to the user how the app uses this data. So something like, hey, we're going to use this data to access your location. Are you okay with this? Right? So again, think about where I want to put this, right? So I want to put some kind of key in there, right? So if I kind of put this copy, now explicitly the app itself, right? Should I put it in here, item 0, the device capabilities? I mean, even when I turn this on, if I went back to here and I turned this thing on, I said, well, I want it. I want, not wireless, I want maps, right? I want this maps thing to be turned on, this one, right? I want this on, right? And it says maps, routing, airplane, bike, bus, car, ferry, pedestrian, ride sharing. It does all this other stuff that maps allow you to do. And you can click all these on. And if I do, like all this craziness, yay, all that's on. Doesn't do this, right? And if I look at my plist, it says maps, routing, app supported. And then if you look in here, it gives me item 0, all these things, to item 11, and it says bike, bus, car, blah, blah, whatever, all this kind of stuff. Kind of cool. That's how it updates the info plist, the property list that we haven't seen before, right? But somewhere in here, support interface orientation, we can put that in there. That's what it tells us. Portrait, right? Supported interface orientation, this other one. It also tells us portrait, bottom, and landscape. It talks about that and gives us a value. But we need another value in here, another key to add that in. So any idea, do you guys have any idea how to add this one in? NS location in usage description? How do we add that in to the info P list? Because up here, it doesn't do that, right? It doesn't say that, well, if I go to general, it doesn't have a value in here. Here's my app icons if I want to add that in, right? But where is it that it asks me for that? It's not like I can click on something. It did include MapKit framework because what I did when I compiled, what it did was it looked at my import and it said, okay, Tom is importing MapKit, so I'm going to include the MapKit framework right in here to be linked, right? But, and if I look at info, this is interesting. These are all the things from my bundle info. So things like my app name, all this kind of stuff. But where do I put this in there? NS location when in usage description error. I copy this. And if I go to the web for a second and I punch it in, you might get this error with some of our other services, right? So it says example or the P list. It'll actually give you an image of where that goes. Like it'll show you how it would look, right? There's our bundle version and there's the key information. And if you notice, it says that you need to put this description in and it's of type string. Okay. All right. And then, like it says in here, and this is kind of a difficult to look at thing. I just want to give you some examples of how to look this stuff up. So here's something. So here's our key list. There's required background modes. And then it says application requires iPhone environment. And the other one says NS location always uses description. And then it says allow to access app even when you are not using the app. This is the kind of stuff that I wanted to show you. So if this is what I want with a key and value pair, where, my friends, do I put this in? Well, here's the value. Here's the key. So how do I add it in? Any way we can do that? Well, if I add a row, right? So here's a row. And what I want to do is I want to type that in. And then I know that it's going to be a string. And in my key value, I can say that this app uses your location for Tom. There we go. You can type in whatever you want in there. Do you agree? Right? Something like that, right? And as long as you have something in there, like when it comes to the location, and by the way, I've typed this totally wrong. It's this. And I want to put that in there. So this category, which goes in there. Application category. Let's just undo those changes. That's not what I wanted. Place, cancel, undo, undo. No, cancel that one too. Undo, undo. I want to kind of add another one, but I added it in here. No. Oh, I see. Actually, I did it right. Privacy says location when in use. That's what it does. So I was right. So app uses your location, right? Whatever. And then if I was to run this thing, hopefully I did it right. Should ask you. So it says, allow where am I to access your location while you are using the app. And it says app uses your location. That's what I wrote down in here. You need this piece to work. And if I click allow, now I can move on. Okay? Questions around this? So I've actually modified my plist, my info.plist, in order for me to do that. And I did it by right-clicking here and going add row. That's why I did it. Pretty simple. All right. So this is cool. Let's take a short break. We're about 8 o'clock. I've gone for about an hour and a half. And when we come back, we'll add the functionality to the app. Okay?